me between the time I sent you guys the agenda for the meeting last week and when the actual meeting occurred, that the Vermont League of Cities and Towns they hold our insurance and they want us to all use the exact same rules procedure. So we don't really have any choice. And I'm just gonna sign them and live with them if everybody's like, well, just, even if you're not okay with that.
I read them and I thought that they were good.
Me too, I thought they were good too. Okay, so maybe if you do that, I'll make a motion to accept our new rules of procedure for the Vermont League of Cities and Towns. Second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Alright, approval of minutes from May 27th, 2025. The only thing I had, I have it in front of me right now, I guess they're here somewhere. Leisha, was where it said Chief Warble said it would be the fastest speed, not the lightest speed.
Yeah, that's on.
Yeah, I'm gonna find that. When we were talking about pedestrian safety. Okay, so it's section 7, number 1A. It just needed lightest needs to be changed to fastest in the second sentence. She said that he said the fastest speed clock restraint was 48 miles per hour. That's all I had. Does anybody else have any changes? We've been trying to look it over. Okay.
When I read the. Can't find it.
So I gotta find that the rules of procedure somewhere here because you guys have to sign it all. We have to all sign it. Yep, I'll make a motion to accept the minutes as corrected. Give it a second. Second. Sorry. Any discussion? Anyone want some time?
There is a copy of the rules of procedure with the signature.
Oh, thank you. I know you have that ready for us. Here, next agenda item is our standalone flood regulations for the town of Ludlow. I'm gonna repeat something so big. Chris is here from Ludlow Planning Commission. I just want to mention that when I went to get everything ready for the public hearing that we had with the village about the flood regs, the standalone flood regs, I went back and read all of the minutes to be clear that we did everything correctly procedure-wise. And we did make a motion to have these be the town standalone flood regs as well. We did already make that motion. Yeah, we did. And I was embarrassed because we didn't say that before we went to the public hearing, so that wasn't done at that time. And I know these have been vetted by FEMA. We had the 2 FEMA guys here. They told us they were, fine with them. I know Jason sent an email to Rose and I and Jared and Charlotte, I think, saying how's it working out in the village in the flood regs, like what's been the feedback. And I haven't heard anything yet. Charlotte can feel us a bit about how people, I don't want to tell you about raising their buildings up 2 feet.
No, they don't like that.
But, water went 22 inches up, so what are you gonna do? Chris, you wanna take it away? Is there anything you wanna?
Jason is in San Diego and he sent me a frantic email asking me if I could be here and he sent me a draft of the proposed regulations. So my understanding, and based on what you just said, is that the village is adopted, correct?
As a standalone.
As a standalone.
It was taken out of village zoning.
Speaking of village, okay. And so it's virtually or identical to this?
I don't know if the town was exactly identical to the village. Jason was the one that reviewed all that prior to when we did it for the village.
I imagine they were saying, I can't think of a compelling reason.
I don't know, maybe you could just go real quickly to see if there's anything in there we think would not apply to the town. Sound, you want to spend time doing that or not?
I can't think of anything that would apply.
Yeah, and I know you,
Affiliation of
I know you researched these too, Ryan, because you've had some really in-depth questions.
Well, I
on your
remember
review.
when you did them, we talked about that.
Yeah, we did. It's just really my error that I didn't remember that we had already sent it to the town.
Yeah, and also, I think that's a big part of what we're trying to do here throughout Ludlow is to consolidate everything so that there's one set of rules for
And rather than pending merger,
the merger.
pending merger.
Yeah, and just that, same rules for everybody regardless of the merger.
So my understanding is you've been going back and forth with this for quite some time now. So I imagine Jason talked to you folks about the Act 121 implications and all that.
Wait,
stuff.
review that, will you, just so we're in trouble now?
The main thing I'm thinking about with 121 is, so you're adopting or proposing to adopt river corridors. You don't currently have river corridors. And one of the bigger elements of Act 121 was essentially delegating that authority to the state. So the town wouldn't administer them. But I was talking to the manager of the floodplain and river corridor protection procedure yesterday, and it sounds like there's some degree of question as to whether if the town were to administer them, you'd get that final emergency relief and assistance percentage bump. Do you know what I'm talking about with that?
No, but it sounds like something we need or want.
So in the event of another July 2023 flood, you get reimbursed by FEMA through what's called public assistance. Right now, I imagine your reimbursement rate you'd be at that 12.5%. So if you were to adopt river corridors, your reimbursement, the state's share would go up to 18.5 from 12.5. So essentially, you'd be reimbursed a greater percentage of disaster-related damages just for administering these. So the state's going to take it over. Your river corridors are going to be regulated regardless. If you adopt them here and your planning and zoning office administers them, there's that sort of financial incentive.
That's great. It's an incentive.
It's an incentive.
Like
They
6
are.
percentage points?
Yeah. So with a big event like July 23, it's significant savings. River corridors are objectively challenging to administer, so that's sort of the other side of the coin. But with time and with support, I'm sure it'll be fine. So that was the big thing that I wanted to make sure Jason had said to you. If he hadn't, some towns choose to adopt based on that. Some
It
towns.
might have happened since we did the village, but that was like way last year.
I don't remember saying
I don't remember him saying that at all.
that. No, that's
Okay.
In fact, he kind of tried to get us to not put river corridors in there at our initial meeting with Rose and I. It was like over a year ago that we did this, like last week, but in
Okay.
2020.
So it might have predated Act 121. So
Yeah, it definitely did.
okay.
So that's good information, because we did not know that.
Okay.
All right, so I'm glad we kept our river corridor stuff in there then.
Yeah.
Okay, do you have any concerns, Chris, with our standalone flood regs here? I know they've already been vetted by those guys from FEMA.
Yeah. I know the DEC and FEMA have looked at them and said they don't, run afoul with NFIP requirements. So it really just comes down to whether or not you guys find them palatable. It looks like a lot of the sort of cookie cutter language is in here, very similar to most cities and towns in Vermont.
Well, we really looked at it in-depthly when we were comparing it to the village zoning, like we combined charts, we didn't want to lose anything.
Yep.
Because they had completely eliminated some areas and charts that we put back in. But then we also gave our ZA, our zoning administrator, more latitude with deciding about some of the things
Mhm.
than it had been previously.
Yep.
As far as conditional use and permitted use goes.
Right.
I guess we entertain a new motion to accept these as our standalone town regs. We could even get them in time with all the short-term rental stuff. And the public
Uh,
hearing, the public hearing piece.
I don't know. 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 I don't know
I'll make a motion to adopt standalone flood regulations for the town of Ludlow as presented.
For a second.
I'll second that.
Is there any discussion?
Identical.
Identical, this is the village one, just the word town was changed. Yeah, we already
Yes,
did it.
that's- yeah. No,
I think
it's-
there's a motion from last April, actually. Okay, I'll call the question. All those in favor of adopting this flood hazard and recording bylaw standalone document for the town of Ludlow, signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? No. None. Let it be known it has passed. Yeah, we did all the hard work last year.
Yeah.
Okay, this is the one we're signing, right? Should we already sign it? You can sign it, blue, right?
I thought you were supposed to.
In blue?
Yeah.
Intelligence from the typing. Hey, we're ready to talk about our yearly goals. It was just a suggestion that I had, that they could come from the last town plan, they could come from the village survey, they could come from our current needs, but it doesn't mean that they have to. Jason said a logical step might be to look at the goals from our town plan and just, how did he say it?
Appreciate it, Chris. You don't need any more
Thank you,
support?
Chris. No?
Okay, great.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
Between then and now, though, I did zoom into Aaron's and Martha's Zoom, so I didn't zoom in, but I watched the video afterwards. They're talking about planning for town municipal plans updates, which we're doing 2027. And they said it was very important to start with public input, but I don't think there's anything, Jason said there's nothing, he thinks is a good idea. Let's take a look at our old town goals, decide which ones we've already accomplished, decide which ones we can let go, and then it would be a just place to start.
So yeah, so this is what's currently in the books?
Yeah, this is what currently is on the books.
So is the purpose to identify what we wanna work on in the upcoming year of this?
Or even the upcoming 2 years, because we have to completely redo the town plan and town zoning. I think it would really guide us on how to redo the town zoning. And in that workshop that I watched, they said that 2 years, it usually takes 2 years to work on a municipal plan. So I thought this goal setting that we do tonight would just be the first step in that. And then, look at the public input. And Jason said that it wouldn't be a problem with, because we have that municipal plan grant for the town zoning, for us to do that for this year. And then in September, we can apply for a municipal planning grant for the town plan and get some help with it in that. So that they would, pay to invite the public, or so we can have pizza or whatever, to try to get more people here. Or we can have a stand at the chili festival or something, to get some town input about what they wanna see, the goals for the town to be. So what do you wanna look at first? Local economy, is that who's running? I messed up the order in mine. Is local economy the first one you guys look at?
Yep. That's the first one I see.
Okay.
I mean, just reading through these, relatively quickly, that I think there's some projects that start ticking or moving the ball a little bit closer on some of these. I think a lot of these cross over with one another as well.
Yeah, that's obviously we
So-
wanna maintain and enhance the quality of life, right?
Well, I mean, sure, and I
Yeah.
would hope that,
And hopefully we are working on that, as far as trying to make the village more economically feasible, making the village more economically feasible, making the village more safe for pedestrians and
so my thought right away from this is we need to almost like create a short list off of list of priorities.
me too, this is way too long.
I was gonna say, maybe if we go through, we could do like, what's the need to work on now, high, medium, or what? And just put it in the
Yeah.
HTML. And then you can
That's a great idea.
prioritize from there.
Yeah, let's do that.
And then also keep being cognizant of what would have to happen first in order for.
Because there's so many, you can't do all this in 1 year.
No, and after we do it, we're able to look at it, so it's.
So like one thing right off the bat, that needs to be an H is actually it's under recreational facilities. But I think it needs to just go everywhere is ADA.
Yeah,
There
Yeah.
are so many issues
we're lacking so bad.
with ADA accessibility that needs to basically,
So-
I think, be a kind of a driving factor to all change that we make. It needs to have a component,
Okay, and here it's only a recommendation, it's not even a goal.
right, and it's
Well,
only
recreation-
Oh, no, it's up
Facilities,
there,
it's number
yeah,
two.
it's number 2,
Accessibility.
okay.
it's in there a couple of times, yeah,
But then it's secured funding for it later on in the thing.
yeah.
So we're gonna make that an H. Maybe we should just go through and just pick that each of these right now. Make sure those are,
Alright, what do we'll
because that's one thing, you guys we have a whole list of stuff to make the village more pedestrian friendly, and that was one of them, and I am still going to the trustees with that, we just got a little circumvented by short-term rentals and
Where is that on
food
this?
trucks.
It's on page 6, number
Number 2.
recreational facility goals, number 2.
You
It's
think,
way on top.
do you think we need number 1, or is that?
Oh, I thought you were talking about what else you just
I
said.
think Nick's really good at that, providing recreational opportunities for regardless of age or social characteristics. I think he's pretty good at that. When I think about what he has for seniors with yoga and cooking classes and.
In my kind of blanket comment on recreation, we have, let's call it 2/3 of the page on recreation. I think we're doing good there. We need to focus on getting people here to recreate.
Yeah.
Right, so, the socioeconomic drivers, and how do we enhance that, incentivize that to grow?
Well, on the first page, when it talks about year-round stuff, we don't have a lot of year-round opportunities
Where is that?
that would, keep people here all year round. We just don't have them.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest challenges with seasonal tourism,
Though I know Emma's business, they do better in the summer because everybody goes up in Vail and spends all their money up there. But in the summer, they have constant flow of tourists in town. They do much better in the summer.
So I think local economy, number one, target infrastructure development. That needs to be almost like an H2 one, if we create that.
Who the heck's the boy thing?
Basically, anything else that we could do after that is dependent upon having the adequate infrastructure and the right locations.
It's a place to start.
So
So we're agreeing local economy recommendation target that's gonna be an H. How about maybe we should go sheet by sheet, so let's all look at the local economy sheet and decide which ones there we absolutely are gonna stick an H on. But maybe keep it realistic, like, what do we have in our control?
Well, if you go back to local economy, like number 2, evaluate current land use regulations to identify barriers to desirable types of business activities, such as flood hazard areas. I think we've done that. So I would put that as an L. I think if we go through them, and say, well,
But where are we starting?
well,
Okay,
we probably should start at the top
Yeah,
yeah, we'll start at the top.
instead of jumping around.
bouncing, yeah.
I don't know if we need to say the first one, I think our town plan definitely says it.
And you know
This is
what?
the top
And you
one.
could say, and some of them are ongoing. I can call it.
Yeah, okay, yeah, so
Okay,
High, medium, low, or ongoing.
maintaining
Because
and
you're
enhance
always gonna
quality of
have
life,
that.
that's a no.
and F, finish.
Ongoing.
Finished.
Let's do that when we do our
Okay.
goals, let's do ongoing.
Yeah.
And then let's do high priority,
Yeah.
So number 1 would be ongoing, a goal.
Yes.
yeah. And then high priority,
And then a strong and diverse, I think the second one, a strong and diverse economy. Well,
that's the year-round one I was talking about.
yeah.
So how do you want to rate it?
No,
Two.
I think we,
that is
that's,
ongoing.
it's
Well,
ongoing,
Yeah.
but we do still need to talk about it.
Well, see, number
How about
two,
E, emerging?
number two happens with having an actual
Infrastructure.
attack plan of, right,
That's
so
what I mean.
stage, phase one, phase two, then, we could potentially get to that utopia of number two under global economy.
Yeah.
Right? So, I know not to bounce around, but really just to focus on the things that really, are jumping out to me. Because a lot of this, frankly, is kind of like feel good, like let's.
Yeah.
But infrastructure, definitely like local economy. Number 4, business incubators, giving people a place to start. So business incubators may not be best suited in Ludlow, frankly, but Rutland City may be very well suited.
In Springfield right now, they're having a huge, like, Park Street School, big business incubator for tech jobs there.
So how do you wanna rate number 4 on the recommendations?
Unrealistic for local.
Well, see, and that's the thing is coming up like
But
Just
that's something
because-
Charlotte's really interested in.
It is.
Yeah, well, yours is the home business incubator,
It's-
cottage industries. I think, let's put something about, can we have something about cottage industries?
Well, that would be a small.
People working out of their homes.
So that would be,
so our goal here should be to create an environment in which that's possible.
right,
Not to create
zoning
that.
wise,
Yes.
yes.
So like
See, some of these are
Exactly.
not
they have
our
nothing to do
purview.
with what
They're
we're
not our purview, but they can guide us toward,
where we need to be.
yeah, and to what we bring to the select board, probably make sure it just this is.
Well, in the districts, isn't there a conditional use for home businesses in many of the districts already as a conditional use?
I don't think so, they're pretty green lighted, right? Would you
Yeah, I
say
mean,
that, Sharon?
yeah, they're permitted
Pretty
with a
green lighted
green
through our
light,
zoning,
yeah.
or do we need something?
People are coming in and getting a permit, but there is not a permit for it. So it's actually falling under the the building permit.
Really?
Yes,
Okay, so people think, well, why do they need a permit then?
they come in and ask, and then they're
They don't.
handed a building
But
permit.
they really don't need it,
No,
that's what my argument is.
they
They don't
really
need
don't. The
They
state
can just-
does a
In
lot.
every district?
Yeah, I think so, I can't think of what it is, it's not,
the state does a lot to what?
So if you wanna bake muffins and sell them at your house, that's one permit. If you wanna bake muffins and sell them at the farmer's market, that's a different one. If you wanna bake muffins and sell them at Johnny's, that's a different one. But apparently a lot of the towns don't have much more. And we don't either, there's nothing. I've gone through everything and I can't find anything. And then I asked about it in my office and the answer was yes, if somebody comes in and they wanna bake muffins for any one of those criteria, they need to fill out a building permit.
Where does that get them? I mean, what does the building permit have
I
to
think
do with any of
that, I don't know, honestly,
That doesn't even make sense.
I'm banging my head up against this one. I'd love to, yeah, 50
I think
bucks
the
for it.
baking ones are a lot more severe than like the knitting or the quilting or the craftsman ones are more lighter, but the baking ones are just because of health and safety.
Right,
So it'll be a use permit. Just typically what you would see is that it's conforming use permit.
mm-hmm,
And then that, so if you got a bakery and you plan to sell retail, so I'll use the example of the butchering of, livestock. So up until recently, you'd have to transport the animal prior and go to an FDA approved site. Now, or a USDA approved site. Now they have USDA approved butchers that are mobile. They can come on site to process livestock. And that's really made a huge difference in that economy, in that world. And so finding things that make it safe, healthy and equitable so that there is oversight. You're gonna be selling this, there needs to be some type of stamp of, this came from a place that's approved, like an approved kitchen,
Yeah,
So it's you know, and if we had like kitchen, you know, you go to California, you go to Boston, and every restaurant out front has a letter grade from the health officer. You know,
You can look them up for the places here, but they're not outside on the window.
you know, not necessarily posted and stuff, so, you know, those are things that I don't think right now we're really equipped for. I think we need to be cognizant of them, and that it's happening, and, you know, create some type of use permit, it's not a building permit, let's call it, you know, what it is. And just, and use it almost as an avenue for education, like, because most of that is gonna fall under a lot of state guidelines right now, that just no towns really have. You know, no, very few, any town, very few communities have a really active health officer, unless you're, you know, Rutland City, Springfield, you know, the major.
We have no
major-
offices.
Exactly, but as far as active, like saying, okay, I'm gonna go to every restaurant in town, we're gonna do an inspection of your kitchen, and we're gonna put a grade on it, like
And how
municipalities
how
don't do
it even
that.
trains them to do stuff like that.
Well, that's the thing, it's a state, right now, it's a state.
Okay, so is there any? Go ahead.
And some kitchens get inspected.
Oh, yeah, they get randomly inspected and like that.
Yeah,
Sometimes
it's not
they're
by our
not.
local health officer, it's not by
No, it's by the state,
No,
yeah, it's by the
yeah.
state.
So that's where it's the difference of jurisdiction, where the town is issuing a use permit. A use permit isn't giving them a certified kitchen, you don't have the ability to do that, right?
Yeah, before
But they
Emma,
also have to get a permit from the state, and that's where the health official comes in.
right, before Emma
So
had Johnny's,
I
they were
don't know
doing
that we have
pop-ups
to
at
duplicate
Main and Mountain.
efforts.
They came and inspected her kitchen before she could put anything out, even in a pop-up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying, is
Yeah. Okay, so is there anything else in here we are gonna make a high priority, or we wanna list as ongoing, or we wanna scratch?
So right now, I only have one high priority,
Which is the target
infrastructure.
infrastructure development.
well, and I'm just going to throw this out there, about develop a comprehensive village parking plan. That is something we were talking about a couple of years ago, and it
Where
never went
is
anywhere.
that?
That's, it's
Page
number
Okay.
5, under the local economy. Do you remember that? I mean, like,
Yeah,
We were talking about that like 3 months, 4
Yeah.
months ago.
months ago.
even before
ago.
that, we were talking about that
We
with
all-
Aaron Galley.
Yeah,
We went to the village trustees, but it was a different board.
Yeah.
It got shot down with his ideas.
we were all rah, said, all right, well, let's hire an
Yeah.
engineer.
Yeah,
We were talking about diagonal
And we
parking
got-
up by the,
And it got shut down.
Yeah,
did it?
no, it didn't.
No, it just
it didn't go anywhere.
Yeah, no, we haven't gone to, I haven't gone to the trustees with our ideas yet on that,
Oh, okay.
just because we got, you
Then
know.
maybe it's something we should, like, if it's something that we've discussed in the past and we thought was important, is it still important to us, or has it gone
I think
away?
it is important, and I think that's the way we're gonna get the ADA stuff too.
Yeah.
It's
It's
the
a
only
really
way we're
good
gonna-
way again.
It's the only way we're gonna get the ADA stuff, so that would be a high priority, everybody agree? Develop a comprehensive village parking plan. And Cherry, she sends stuff out all the time about, hey, what do you guys wanna make grants for? Some things I've told her I want is handicap parking, it's one of the ones I wanna talk to her about, and
So, but and then it's, you know, and all this is good, but we need an executing officer. There needs to be someone at the town that is going to execute and
Yeah, the
work
planner.
towards
yeah, the planner,
Right,
right,
you know,
everybody's talking
so-
about.
that, you know, that,
Well, it might establish a need for a plan. Here are the things we need to do, but we can't do it ourselves.
Yeah, I like that idea.
You know, we can give you the outline of what needs to be done,
These are our hard
but this isn't
priorities.
what we're going to do as a board.
You know how many money we get to
Well, usually when you're a board, it gives direction to the people that are working in the town,
Yeah,
or whatever. if
that's what
this
we
is
do, we give direction. And we either get a yay or a nay, or a, you know,
Like the
Editing.
cemetery board gives
Editing.
direction, but they don't dig the grave sites.
So
Example.
the
Like, I don't know
the
for it.
town does.
I know,
Yeah.
that's what I said, they give
there's some we
direction.
can let go here, like, let's look at local politics. I mean,
Okay.
it's like utility to village, especially to maintain this functional as a crucial. That's
Where
kind of
are
the same
Where-
thing
Where are
on
you to?
page 5, just going down the list.
Oh, okay.
I thought you said politics.
But I really think, you know, to get back to Charlotte's idea, I really think that's a way to have year round. Right now, people can do that kind of thing with the farmer's market, but you know, what do they do in the winter?
Well, what about number 3? Doesn't that come under number 3? Coordinate economic development initiatives of agencies and organizations, streetscapes, economic corporation, chamber, you know, that's something that I would think we're not gonna do.
A town planner.
Or study the feasibility, that's something that's more of a, like the Ludlow Economic Corporation, which I don't even know.
I've never heard of that
I was
before.
gonna say, do they actually do anything?
I don't think they
Are
even
they
exist
operating?
anymore.
Maybe that's something that needs.
So 3 and 4, low priority, because it's not really something we control. As I was saying.
Well, in a way, the planning commission could drive that and say, this is a goal, but again, I think it goes back to what Ryan said, we need a person that is gonna do that stuff.
This is like if I was,
This is
if I
like a
was,
wish
if I was
list.
8 years old, exactly, and I had to write a letter to Santa
Yeah.
for everything I wanted, right?
That's how these have always been, that's why I wanna get it
But
done,
that's
what
why
we
it's
can
hard.
actually do.
But you know, we also have to realize that we don't have to live in this box that's been created by someone else,
Right,
you know, outside the
Yeah.
box.
yeah, I agree.
You know, I mean, you know, energy plan, all that stuff, I mean, you know, those are things that are way beyond where we are now. I mean, we
We don't
probably,
even have an energy section anymore.
Go back to the village parking. And
yeah, and maybe
if
we
you don't
should
have
do-
money, you're not gonna, you can come up with a plan all you want.
Yeah.
And we could probably do that once, and it would cover generations, because there's only so much land around the village
Yeah.
to be able to park.
Right,
So take the map, look at all the land. Okay, let's say in a crazy way, we could put a parking garage on that land over there. What are the chances of that are gonna happen?
Yeah.
Zero.
Like zero. So, all I'm saying is
yeah, I hear what you're
you
saying.
can elaborate and go on and on with all
Which is what
these
we've
things,
done over
and
the
if,
years.
once you do it, that's gonna be it, because we have such a small downtown,
Mhm.
there's nowhere to go.
Yeah,
So
it
you
would
can
have
keep
been
doing
ideal
plans
to
and you
find
can
a
keep-
park, although I put it
You,
in
you
my-
can try to pin the properties that could be a possibility of having parking, but where's the money? Where will we
There is
buy
money
it?
for ADA stuff, there's grant money for ADA stuff to create some
Wow,
handicap
okay, but-
spots. Yeah,
No, I understand
no, but I
that,
mean, there are
I'm saying-
avenues to get it, but it's through other ways. Like to create handicap spots.
but then you gotta, what are they gonna pay to do that? I mean, how much money are you gonna pay to do that?
No, I hear
Because
you.
you know what
That-
the number is.
Yeah, we wanna be practical, let's be
You know what the
practical.
number is.
Yeah.
It's higher than what anyone's gonna want, so.
I feel like number 6 on page 5 at the bottom, I feel like that's, is it the chamber that does all this stuff, the chili cook-offs,
Yeah, and
the harvest fairs?
When you flip the page and you look at the recreation, that's the recreation department, that's not us, all that recreation stuff.
I think we're supposed to be
Except-
guiding them through our
except for
town
the
plan,
ADA.
but I bet they
Yeah.
don't even read it, or even know it exists. I mean, they know it exists, but I bet they don't know there's a whole section that applies to what they do.
I don't know, maybe somebody should give it to me.
Like, is there anyone that is encouraging small-scale light industrial manufacturing businesses in the D.R. Brown Industrial Park? Is anybody who does
Where
that?
is
Did you say that?
That's in the local economy, policies, number
Yeah.
2.
But you need to give us a page in this section.
Yeah,
5, I'm stuck on 5,
Just
just iron out 5, yeah. Are we done with 5?
you're bouncing around so much that it's impossible to keep up
I'm
with
just
you.
staying on 5.
Yeah,
Okay.
basically, this entire document is something that we need to create a path and a vision of what we want Ludlow to be 5 years, 8 years, 10 years, 12 years, and really phase it in and have a actual, like, tangible change, tangible plan. This document, I mean, so like create more industrial, that the economy does that.
Yeah.
Someone, you know,
Somebody from the
supply and
town
demand does
goes, but somebody from the town used to do that, cause for a while, weren't they gonna do some kind of create energy from burning wood? That was a whole thing, remember
Oh,
that?
yeah, there was.
Pleasant Street Extension Industrial Park, and that got
As
shot
long,
down.
as long as people can come into the industrial park and go, the zoning allows
The
them
zoning
to
allows it.
do what
Zoning
people would
allows,
do,
yeah.
then there's not a heck of a lot more you can do about it.
Mhm.
That's the way I look at it. I mean, they've gotta create, people have to create that.
Okay, well, I'm gonna mark that an L then.
Where is that? Number,
Local economy recommendations number 3.
oh, we already did that.
Oh, I
3
mean,
and 4 were both L's.
local economy policies number 2, industrial park thing.
Oh. So that's enough now.
Yeah, but it's not something that we control.
Yeah, so these are things we're gonna do. I
Yeah,
mean, other
these are things we're going to ask the select board to do after we have a definite plan, or ask the town planner to do when we have a town planner. These all kind of say the same thing.
So can we skip the recreation facilities because
That's it.
except for the ADA piece, which is actually under another section.
It's also under another section.
Well, yeah, it's over,
It's on recreational 2 places.
It's also under recommendations for recreational.
Yeah. How about land use goals on page 6?
well, can I, just a sec,
Yeah.
on page 5.
Right.
Under local economy recommendations, number 5, develop a comprehensive village parking plan and explore municipal financial options. Maybe that's where you include ADA accessibility, that's where it should be, it's
Yeah,
like
let's put it-
parking,
let's put it-
accessibility.
What number was that again?
Okay, it's page 5, local economy, number 5.
I don't,
Develop comprehensive parking plan?
I don't know how important it is to keep
Is,
tagging all of this, because this to me is just an exercise that isn't necessarily gonna really yield any meaningful results.
I'm just using it as a way for people to come up
It's-
with where to start.
No, I understand, but like where to start is,
There's so much to it.
where to start is, so like ADA is built into everything we do. ADA is built in, so like they're redoing
That's what I'm
sidewalks,
saying.
all that needs to be 100% ADA compliant.
Which I don't think we said when we sent those
No, but
recommendations.
it's built in, it's
It
gotta be
is
built
already?
in.
Yes.
So like what people just genuinely building, and it's part of it.
Mhm.
So for us, I mean,
So
because
just
not
ADA
even,
compliant should be its own category.
Yeah.
Because it's everywhere.
I mean, even you go further in this document, and I'm not really sure, I apologize, but educational goals, policies, recommendations, this has we have no business with that.
No, we do not.
That needs to be,
They have a school board.
Right. And really, the only thing in the town plan about education is, is taking a look at numbers every time you do it to a plan. It's supposed to provide a certain amount of data.
Well, so I will say, as far as educational facilities is, it should be a priority as to how to utilize the municipal property.
That we now own
Right.
in the high school, right?
So that needs to really be figured. There's, and I know we talked about this at nauseam, but we got new fire trucks on the way, and we're gonna be parking them next to the river. Probably should look for any place to park them, and that's the piece of land we use. And right now, it's being utilized to the best of its ability for the entire community. And that's, again, a priority, and I think a lot of people are skirting around. Energy goals, we have no business, we can't even maintain a working signal light. I don't think we should be going into energy policies and energy recommendations and PMs. Right, so let's see if we can get.
I do think we should have some energy goals in the new zoning though, because we don't even have an energy section. Like Mount Holly has a great energy section in theirs, because whenever something new happens, they let all the chairs know about it. And I read their entire energy section in their town zoning, it's amazing. Just trying to get more wind power, solar power. Town does have land.
You also have
conducive to
ridgeland protection,
that. Right.
so you
for
can't
wind
put up
power,
a wind
but
power.
There's places downtown that have excellent
So
solar.
those are all gonna be state incentives,
Yeah, that's,
so, they're really.
People can have their own local goals for energy too, which I think we should have. Of course, we gotta pass it by a light company. How about these land use recommended, health and safety services, is that anything we need to look at? We got the tree warden on the reestablishment of tree cover in the village area. No, I'm serious,
I
I'm
know.
very serious about this.
I know.
I know, this is so comprehensive.
So,
I
so
know, well, this is a town,
This is a
town
million
meeting.
years worth of work.
I know.
If you
I
were
know.
ever to sit down and do every one of these, you'd be here for forever.
That's why we wanna just prioritize what are our
That's why I
huge
think you
goals.
so it's
started
like,
to say, well, we should even, and you could, anybody say forever. What should we be involved in, what should we not be involved
Right, we could not even look at this if we feel like we
in? Well, I think this
we
is
can
great,
come up with some ideas on our own.
but there's a billion, this is unbelievable, really. If you really start thinking
I
about
know.
it, reading it and thinking
Well,
about it.
it is unbelievable, it is unachievable.
Well, I guess that's what I mean.
so and again, these can become very, very opinionated, right? So what's a priority for the community, but to look at it as objectively as possible, so
Right.
we're looking for growth. In order to get growth, you have to extend town municipal services. So any type of sewer or water line, water treatment facility upgrade, mini water treatment facility closer to the lakes, because we do have a very robust lake district,
We do,
and all of which are on non-conforming lots and on original septic systems.
and some still going into the lakes.
So these are things that, again, they're monstrous issues that no one wants to really speak about, but it's inevitable. It's inevitable that you're gonna have tear-downs in the lake because it's gonna be more valuable to have a vacant lot to put a septic on than to have a camp on the lot.
Mhm.
So, if that's what we want, that's okay, great, then we'll just be monster homes in the lake and nothing else. Every small cottage will become someone's backup septic system.
Do you wanna take a look at our village survey? It's 2 summers old, and see if some of the things we asked them, if we wanna take any of those goals on for ourselves. Like, I know they wanted extended sidewalks, and they said it's not enough parking, and, they had definitely had
That's where I
opinions.
came.
Is that what you're taking a look at, Judy?
No, that's why I said that about the parking. Just hold
Yeah.
up, because I remember all that talk.
So parking, so let's keep it as civil. Let's try to get an answer on, can we put diagonal parking up by the library? Can we have 12 parking spots up by the library,
That's a great idea. Some feasible things,
right?
And
Can we have
maybe-
12?
and make one a handicap one. There's a handicap one in the back, right by the building, there's 2. There's 2. At 12 diagonal parking spots at the library.
No.
But if the town controls that, if the library controls that?
Well, and it occurs to me that, there was talk about safety of pedestrians when we were talking about the
Backing into
the food trucks and all that, and that all came up as a topic. That's why I said, looking at the village parking, just what can be done with it is a big broad category. Because then you can talk about safety, and you can talk about traffic flow, and you can talk about parking and patterns.
So even this, so right now, going down Pleasant Street, it's a free-for-all for parking, you walk on either side of the street. Why can't we paint lines on just one side of the street,
Yeah.
parks on the side of the street?
Yeah, because the farmer's market's nuts, you can't even get their Pleasant Street now, because everybody's
And
parking.
I'll say something that's highly unpopular, but I'll say it anyway,
Go for it.
is when we talk about funding things, what about parking meters? So many towns have them, and it funds a lot of that kind of stuff. Your parking lots, all that. I mean, if I go to another town, Rutland, or I go on vacation, and there's a parking meter, I pay it, I don't whine and complain. I mean, it's just like, people are used to it.
You know
So
what?
why do we say, oh, we can't have a parking meter to fund what we need to
So
fund?
I would say there, so any type of revenue stream you want to create as a municipality,
Yeah.
you need it to at least, because you're gonna have to employ someone to monitor them. Or so like on the weekends, someone's gonna have, a municipal employee is gonna have to go and put parking tickets on people's cars and stuff like that.
Yeah,
And
good
do you
point.
have enough parking spots that makes it
But it
feasible?
could be we could maybe write a grant for a study.
Sure.
That would be, like what I'm saying is, we're not just gonna say we're gonna do it, but let's do a study and say, what do we need? What do we have? And how would we get there?
Maybe we could
Because we
invite-
always say it's
Is it
small,
Ron
but
Tarble? Maybe we could invite him to here.
yeah.
He would know.
Because like your
What
idea
the
about
town
parking
wants.
spaces on Pleasant Street.
Yeah.
You know,
The town, we could go up 8 lines tomorrow with all this, that what the town decided to. They mostly, if the fire chief said, I like that because I don't even get a fire truck coming down the street. You
Yeah,
know, these are all things that we need to make sure that they're functional, but then they also make sense. So, add additional parking, up at the library, that's state highways, you have to deal with the state. And at some point, the town has to take a position, we want to put these here, what does it take for you, what do we have to do for you to okay that project? What type of signage, slow down, so,
but that would be something where we get Cherry to
Yeah.
maybe write a grant. We get the study and then we make decisions.
the engineering study.
Not
Yeah.
not like say, oh, we're gonna make decisions when we don't know. We don't have a
Well-
professional analyzer. This is what I'm
So,
saying.
but what are we analyzing? Whether or not we need more parking spots? The answer we don't have.
No, but
But as far
how
as
can we do it? There are people, that's like their job. They
Of course.
just study traffic.
well, you call the state. I mean, I could call the state right now and start the ball rolling. Call transportation. Call them, right? We call them.
Logan
Logan.
and regional.
And I call Logan and say, okay, who do we have to reach at the state? I wanna put 10 we measured it up, 10 parking spots up across there. We still keep the width for the state highway.
Mhm.
How do, okay, where
But
do
what
we
I'm
go?
saying is like, I mean, we all have ideas, I have ideas. But if we have a professional person come in and do that work and make the recommendations to us, and then we do it, it just makes more sense. Like,
Yeah,
you get
It's definitely
this,
a place to start.
I think
yeah.
that's an important
Well, also tell Cherry, because she will find you grants for just about everything.
Sure, but it's also like, so a grant to paint lines. And we can find that whole
The
budget.
grant is for the engineering study, so it's feasible, so then we can go to the village trustees or the select board and say, hey, here's this grant, we had this engineering study done, this would work on Pleasant Street, are you guys on board with that?
Pleasant Street Library.
Library, yeah.
Look at all those.
Pleasant Street's
And make
really close to
recommendations
downtown.
about like the parking that's over by the Brew Fest, Are there, that we use, like, is there ways to improve that, or,
Better signage, not
Better
a sign
signage.
25 feet in the air.
or
Do you know that there's a parking sign pointing you to that lot? On the other side of the street?
No.
It's 22 feet in the air.
I've never seen it.
Guess I don't look up.
Same,
We
same
don't
one.
own Roof Fest though, that's the problem, is we
The
always,
sign is on the telephone pole across the street.
But it also
That's
could be for pedestrian walkways, for, like, I think we need to look at it much bigger and broader, like more sidewalks for pedestrians, all that. We know that's a need.
Yeah.
It's stuff we've talked about. People said it in this survey we did 2 years ago. So that's why I think it's like big.
so that's gonna be our yearly goal, one of our yearly goals, is to work
Be all
on
right.
avenues for parking and avenues for ADA compliance.
But as far as, so in just the language here, so like, we do not need a traffic study. We need an engineered plan on how to execute and build something.
That's what she's talking about,
No studies.
Thank you.
yeah.
Studies
Oh,
are,
Grant
yeah.
hired
we
as
study
engineer.
out. We know all the answers.
And
just
and
we
that's
can't-
something we should put on our agenda and kind of flesh out, what do we wanna get out of it?
I will.
We wanna get
But I
sidewalks,
also
we
think
wanna
we
get
should ask
parking,
Ron Tarple, the
ADA,
head of
all
the
that
highway
stuff.
department, because you want those people on board with you when you're doing stuff like that, you don't want it sprung on them. And you want them involved in the planning, so they understand
You
the
take the
whole
village map and you circle areas,
That's what he
come
would
up
do
with
for
all
us.
kinds of thought processes on certain areas.
That's a great idea.
Like you just did on Pleasant Street.
With
we
him
talked
there,
about
the
at the
dog,
library,
yeah.
two top areas.
And just do like a meeting, you just.
So does that go, you do that, then you give that to this person that may come in and who's the pro and
Yeah,
he's gonna tell us all how,
you're right, Ted, that's
how
where
to
we
do it.
start. We start.
And then you
with
wanna
the-
show Ron, and you wanna show everyone else involved that this is what we're thinking, we may not have it all, anybody have other thoughts?
Right.
Bring it in, circle the area that you think, and then start working that way.
No, I love that idea.
And pedestrian safety, that's another one that's coming
We
up.
talked
Yeah.
about it a lot.
Yeah.
Put all that in there,
But all of the
All of
pedestrian,
it, all of it
put
goes
it
in.
all in there.
yeah,
Different
just
So
color,
put it as a
whatever
goal,
you've gotta
and then we'll
do.
do it another meeting, because we're just.
We talked
you
about
wanna do it in
off.
July, you wanna invite Ron here and have a village map up there and.
I think we just, let's work out our goals and then backtrack, let's
Yeah, we
not
already-
go.
That's just one of the things I think we
I
can
like
work
your
on.
thinking though, because with this thing I watched on, coming up with your municipal plan, you also now not only have to come up with a goal, but you have to say how you're gonna do it, when you're gonna do it. I mean, the state's
That
not gonna,
makes sense, because
it's
it
not gonna
gives
prove
you,
it anymore
it
unless you.
gives you a blueprint of where you go.
Right, and we already kind of went through a blueprint of how we could solve that parking plan,
Yes.
probably.
We do.
We were just gonna come up with goals, but I like how we.
But step one is, okay, what are we willing, so, grants, I understand, but all kidding aside, this is something that we're wanting to plan and execute. It costs money. What are we willing, what's the budget, we're gonna vote on this, and we need an annual, basically, I'll call it petty, we need an annual budget for engineering and execution of
For this board,
not for this, for the
For the
town,
town,
for the
yeah,
town, so.
I like that idea.
So there's no, that, the thing always is, there's no money, there is, there absolutely is money.
You have to plan it,
We have-
has
we
to,
have
has to go to the budget.
It has to go to the budget, we have the 6th highest grant list in the state of Illinois.
well, the other
Our
thing is,
municipal rate is one of the lowest municipal rates in existence,
a goal for this board could be that by November, we come up with a list of projects that we wanna work on with a budget, and we give it to them when they're forming the budget. The thing about a budget
Good
is,
idea, yeah.
you have to work with them on what their timeline is if you ever wanna get money. And November is the time that they start working, cause they have to have it done by January 21.
Okay,
So that will be a good goal.
so that's our goal.
That's a high priority,
Yeah,
Please.
right there.
Right.
that's step one, because otherwise it's just all talk.
yes.
No,
that's-
that's-
And that's
Yeah,
what,
that's
that's the
something
problem, we
that's
just go
Yeah.
We
around.
talked
That
well
does.
about it, but
Yeah, but now we
if
gotta,
you wanna move on, you really gotta get a plan together and go.
Let's do it. That's what you do when you build a house, right?
That's
I
where it
know.
starts.
Yeah, definitely. And then it changes all along the way.
Is a million.
Okay, do we want to spend any more time looking at these goals? I mean, it sounds like we already got a really good one to start with.
I think we all need to go home and really
I'm with you.
consume this
Hmm.
and all come up with our own own ideas off this, and each of us surmised our opinions, our thoughts with this, come up with the top 5, I would say,
Okay,
and then let's talk about that, but to go through these one at a time here and
I think,
exercise on
I
this.
think it's maybe in July,
they don't have to come from.
maybe in
here.
July, we could just dedicate our meeting to goals, and we do our
Well, that's
homework.
what this was.
Well, yeah, but I think it ended up being more than what we
It's
It's not-
anticipated.
It's not just one meeting, obviously.
It's not just
Yeah.
unless you do like 4 hours.
Yeah, but I
But
get
we're
it.
not doing
I
time.
think the big
I'll be
question,
gone again.
the big question that we have to ask the trustees and the select board are, we all know the things that need to be done in town. We all talk about them all the time. What are they willing to spend money on? What are they willing to put in the budget? Or what amount are they willing to put in the budget to work on these things? That sets up everything else that we do from there. Because right now, I mean, it's one thing, I'm basically saying, yeah, we're gonna look at trying to get a sewer line out to the lake. That's that starts with a one from 100 million. It's a monstrous thing. That, you know, that's something that you work towards. You look for opportunities for that to happen. You look for private equity to help bring that along. That's just in the long term, you know, we gotta work towards this, but then what are the things, tangible things, if we sat down and we put the money on the table, what can we get done in 6 months? Right? What can we get done, you know, so say we're gonna allocate funds and start talking about November, town meeting in March,
Yeah, one
come
thing's
July
that we work on.
2026, I want a shovel in the ground on something,
You know, you can also,
right?
we can also write a petition in January for something that we really want. And the, you know, and we'll,
Have it be
We have to
a
know the
special
funding.
article.
yeah, maybe a special article. You can do that
I
all
know
the
our,
time.
I know our job is to put all this information in front of the trustees and the select board and all this stuff, but we really need to know what they would want.
Yeah.
Because it just seems like you just hit your head against the wall a lot of times.
These boards have been a lot more receptive than the old ones, so I'll tell you too.
No,
Yeah,
I'm just
I know.
saying, you know, it's not worth us wasting our
No, I-
time if
I
no
agree
one
with you.
cares about
But
the stuff we're
but
working on.
what happens with municipal plans though, is where you start, is with the public. That's where you're supposed to start. You're supposed
We
to
already have that.
invite them
We
here.
have them.
Well, we
We
had it
already
from
have
2
that.
summers ago, but
Shows the parking is, well, whatever,
Right.
shows it all, like
Yeah.
you brought up.
exactly,
It hasn't changed that much in 2
I'm
years.
just saying, what do people want us to work?
exactly, that's what I
We
mean.
can
Well,
work,
that's-
we can work
that's-
with energy.
We ask the people what
We'd
they
be
want,
wasting
and
our
then we go
time.
to the select board and say, hey,
So
This is what the
I
girls
like
do.
the idea of everybody come with their vibe or their
Me too.
ideas.
me too.
And there's an exercise we could do as a group. I would be happy to run it for you if you want.
Yeah, I
It's
know
called
you're,
an affinity exercise. You ever do one? And it's, you only take a group of people that all have ideas and you put them up on a board and then everybody prioritizes what they think is most important, and from there you kind of filter it down into goals. That's a real short explanation.
I've done it before.
It works
It's
really
like
well.
great big chart paper all over the,
Yeah,
all over the room. Okay, so we're gonna come back with our 5 goals. Obviously, we already have one here about parking and ADA compliance and accessibility.
But yeah, and then it's the capital piece.
But yeah, the money.
And you know what, Ryan, that could be a goal of develop a list of recommendations for money that would be needed for these things. And that's something that we really need to develop.
Yeah, we
I
definitely.
mean,
have to-
that practical saying that could be a goal. By November, we're gonna have a list of things that we wanna give to the select board to consider for their budget. So we can move things on.
And we're also gonna work on town zoning, but that will guide our town zoning and the
Well,
decisions
and
we
so, I
make.
mean, yeah, we can, zoning obviously.
Yeah, obviously.
It's gonna be important. But I think if we can boil all this down to 3 to 5 goals to do by November, that's practical, that's all you're gonna get. You can have a list of goals.
Yeah, but I think it also helps us feel better about what we do here, that we, you know, we have these 3 or 5 goals and we accomplish them. I mean, that's a great motivation.
We have to go after the goals, I think, for affordable.
Yeah.
Be able to,
Not behind the sky.
we've got the, maybe we can get the money. You know, let's come up with the goals that we think
We
we
think
could,
we
like
can
the parking
accomplish.
stuff that, we brought up tonight. That's certainly all doable stuff. So,
Okay,
you know, maybe that's where you have to start.
come up with your 5 goals, use these or not, you know, decide what's your biggest priority in this whole scheme. We'll get together next month. Do you want me to, I know probably Jason's gonna be part of that meeting in town zoning, but he'll guide that part. We'll start with that so he can go home or whatever after that.
And we need
So
to
he's already
touch
kind of planned next month's agenda, so you don't want me to invite Ron with the map, and have a village map ready to go? We don't
I
think we're
don't
ready
think
for
we're
that
there.
yet?
I think we
Okay.
need
To
to
get our stuff.
get our act
I
together.
already
And
see-
I'm not here.
I already see that one, I know it's true. You know, we-
I will give you my goals and
Yeah.
maybe some quick thoughts
Yeah,
about my goals.
please send them along so you have your voice there. Okay, town zoning updates, we can kind of go through those. next month's agenda. Is your Aaron's thing is tomorrow night, right, on housing at 6:00, Zoom session? No, it's Thursday. If I don't get to them, I'm trying to watch them because I record them all. It was interesting to see like Baltimore and West Windsor people at that, because they don't even have zoning. Every single bit of their zoning is done through Act 250. So they have to have all kinds of Act 250 stuff in their town plan, because they have no zoning documents at all. So it was interesting to hear their input.
That's where you go build your indoor water park.
We need an indoor water park in Ludlow. We do. We should have like the best pool, indoor water park. We should.
We almost got a beach there for a minute,
Where?
on West Hill.
What do you mean?
We almost got a sandy beach up there in the reservoir, and then, I don't know what kind of sand they bought.
No, it all was.
I know it's always been muddy
I
and gross up there.
know, years and years ago, it was really nice, I used to go up there all the
Yeah,
time
I
with my
did too.
kids and go swimming.
Yeah, I
And
did too.
then I don't know what happened to it, just.
Yeah.
They had lifeguards every playground.
Because even when all those years I went to watch fireworks up there, it always smelled like septic. They used that on that lawn. Maybe they fixed all that now.
It
but-
wasn't really septic, it was just small.
Yeah, maybe it was just.
That lawn is just low, but it used to be really nice.
That is a
40
perfect
years ago.
location for solar up there too. That town land up there, that meadow behind the pond. I think solar is beautiful. It's beautiful in my house.
But not on a recreation.
I don't mean on the recreation part, I mean about around the back of the meadow that you look at from the pond.
But you can walk
Can we,
Looks like we're gonna have some intentions on that part, but that's okay.
Just pause, the pause button,
yeah,
the editorial, and,
yeah, I'm not putting any of that in,
Yeah,
I mean, it's, you know.
Okay, so next month's agenda is clear. We have Jason for our town zoning part, and we have our 5 goals. And Judy's gonna lead us in a prioritizing our goals session. We need the big chart paper. I got some that look like post-it notes.
Yes.
Okay, so bring the post-it notes paper. Town zoning updates, other business, board member comments?
yeah.
Tell me when you have a nice time, wherever you are next month.
Getting my dog fused.
Ooh.
That's right, I know that. That's not fun.
That's not fun at all.
Be a couple days before you leave.
Yikes. Citizen comments.
Darn it.
Citizens, reticent comments.
It's really interesting listening to all the discussion about goals. I come from a corporate background. I'd possibly recommend thinking about a concept called SMART goals. If you're familiar with those. Well, so goals should be specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and timely, or time bound. So it might just add some clarity as to what you're looking to achieve. So you were talking about looking for money, things that are affordable, but there's an achievable aspect to the goal, for example. So just an idea.
It is an idea, because a lot of these were not achievable.
Or they're just so
Well, we
willing, they're
write
not
the
a goal
next
at all,
town
like
plan.
you said, they're an 8-year-old Christmas list,
Yeah.
basically.
When we write the next town plan,
So-
that would be a really good way to do it.
Well, I am, taking notes as for the next town plan, because these all came from the last town plan. We want to make sure they're.
It sounds like there was a lot of notes and.
Wait, so I got the S, the M,
I-
the A,
yeah, I-
the R,
we
the
can
C. What
send
was the R?
Uh, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant,
Relevant, I didn't get relevant.
and time bound. Because if you're saying this is gonna happen in 5 years, so much is gonna happen in 5 years, it becomes irrelevant.
And I like that, smart goals.
It's not mine, I didn't see that.
No trademark.
Charlotte, do you have anything you wanna tell us? You guys all heard about Rose, right?
I did.
That her last day is this week, right?
Friday.
She's retiring, let's see if that's health issues and, yeah, she sent us an email. It's-
Oh, I
Yeah, she
guess I
sent us all
missed
an
it.
email, so. We might be a little busy
over the house.
All right, I am entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We're out of here. I want to stay here, probably.